World leaders from across the G20 and beyond are arriving for preparatory events for Africa's first G20 Summit. But the diplomatic rift between the host nation and the US is overshadowing the meeting. Addressing a social summit of civil society leaders, Ramaphosa said the world faces rising inequality, conflict and climate instability, and insisted no nation should dominate another.
There should be no unwritten rules about those who feast and those who must be settled for scraps. It cannot be that a country's geographical location or income level or army determines who has a voice and who is spoken down to. And it basically means that there should be no bullying of one nation by another nation. We are all equal.
The comments came after Washington informed Pretoria it will not participate in any G20 negotiations. A US embassy note said South Africa's priorities ran counter to US policy views. But a separate briefing, Ramaphosa said the US might still attend in a limited capacity, calling it a late but welcome shift. Hours later, however, the White House denied any policy reversal and sharply criticized Ramaphosa's remarks. Meanwhile, South Africa also used the day to strengthen ties with the European Union, signing new deals on critical minerals and infrastructure investment.
We are signing an unprecedented agreement. We've never really fully signed such an agreement where two partners agree that we are no longer going to rely on extracting minerals only. We will want to extract those minerals, have them processed at the point of extraction, add value to those minerals so that South Africa begins to move up the value chain of beneficiation.
Today we also signed our MOU on minerals and metals, the value chain partnership. We need these inputs to power the clean energy transition, both here and in Europe. So the future of our economies depends on a fair and on reliable supply chains, and my emphasis is on reliable supply chains.
Despite the boycott and its objections to a final declaration, South Africa insists the summit will deliver outcomes. Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola says no absent nation will dictate what the G20 can or cannot decide. South Africa's theme for the summit is solidarity, equality and sustainability, a message Ramaphosa hopes will resonate on a continent seeking a greater voice in global governance. Sharon Baranga, CGTN.
Right, CGTN's Robert Nagila is in Johannesburg and joins us with the latest this hour. Robert, thank you for joining us. Plenty of high-profile dignitaries are flying into South Africa ahead of the two-day summit there. Just bring us up to speed on what's happening today.
Absolutely. Well, in the run-up to this Leaders Summit, there's been a number of events taking place. And what we're seeing today is a number of press briefings on the outcomes of those events and on some of the expectations of the Leaders Summit. Now, this morning, there was a scheduled press briefing by the European Commission President and the President of the European Council. This afternoon, there's a scheduled press briefing by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, where he is expected to speak on a number of things, including peace and security on the African continent, primarily the situation in Sudan. Later after that, we expect a summit hosted by President Cyril Ramaphosa on global funding, where a number of the G20 leaders are expected to attend and other organizations. And then in the evening, President Cyril Ramaphosa, the host of the G20 Summit, will host a banquet in honor of the G20 Summit leaders. And that will wrap up events on this particular day, with then all focus on the opening ceremony of the G20 Summit on Saturday morning.
Right, and Robert, a lot has been made about who is and is not taking part, as well as what's on the schedule there. What key issues are likely to dominate discussions, and how are locals feeling about the event?
Well, the global economy is definitely going to come into a sharp focus. The issue about multilateral trade that a lot of the G20 countries are pushing for will be an issue. However, we also expect, as far as Africa is concerned, the Africa Free Trade Continental Area Agreement's implementation to be on that agenda. This is a sticking point that has been an issue for quite a number of years, ever since that agreement came into play. We expect to see some meetings on reforms of the global financial architecture, something that the African continent has been pushing for a very long time, because a lot of countries feel that it is stacked. The global system currently is stacked against Africa. We also expect to see climate change focus here in Africa on the agenda, and then peace and security, especially the situation in the Sahel region, but primarily the situation in Sudan, which has been described as absolutely horrible. We expect those and several other issues to be on this agenda when the G20 Summit leaders meet on Saturday.
Right, and finally, Robert, just tell us more about the mood, what the mood is like where you are right now.
Well, the mood is, as you'd expect when you have this huge summit hosted in any city. South Africa has been preparing for this. They are well prepared, and government officials and the host organizers believe that it's going to be a very successful summit. This is not the first time that South Africa has hosted an event of this magnitude. So they know how these things are supposed to go. The residents here know what to expect as well. It's being held on a weekend, so a lot of people will stay away from central Johannesburg or downtown Johannesburg, where this event is taking place, because there's going to be a lot of disruption towards the road network here. A lot of roads are going to be closed, and so on and so forth. There's going to be a lot of extra security because of the number of leaders who are in town to attend this event. So, but all in all, South Africans are very proud that once again their country is hosting an event of this size. Remember that South Africa is one of the founding members of the G20 Summit in 1999, but yet this is the first time that they are hosting this event. So they're very proud in this country to be hosting this event, and they hope that the outcomes will be favorable to the African continent and will touch on issues that affect the people of Africa directly as well.